to Redheaded Justice. The theme here is disability advocacy. Okay, I want to talk today about a catch-22. Have you heard some people tell people with disabilities, get a job, just get a job. Get a job, you need a job. Get off of SSI. Get a job. Just get a part-time job. Get a job. Well, that is very good advice. And let me tell you, most people with disabilities want jobs. They want jobs. They want to be employed. And when I say disabilities, I'm talking about not just physical disabilities. I'm talking about emotional and psychological disabilities as well. Only a third of those with disabilities are employed, and that is according to the 2020 census. Okay, most of these people want jobs. Why do they have such a difficulty getting jobs? Okay, but this is the catch-22. You get a job, you lose SSI. You get the SSI back once you lose the job. Okay, why is there SSI or SSDI or a combination of both? Well, that is a safety net. A lot of people with disabilities cannot get a job or they can't find a job. Some can work, some can't. Many of them can work. Many of them are employable, but they have a great deal of difficulty getting jobs. I really don't understand why employers are not more keen to hiring people with disabilities because, wow, they are very grateful, very, very grateful, and most of them show up on time. There's also incredible tax incentives, which I covered in another video. A lot of tax incentives for employers to hire people with disabilities. Yes, so once again, only a third of people with disabilities are employed. Some of them part-time, some of them full-time. And if they are full-time, of course they lose their SSI. It is crazy. And then if they get laid off or for some reason they lose their job because of their disability and they are unable to prove that, it is very difficult to get the SSI back. Okay, so the SSI, that's very interesting because as of March of this year of 2020, there was an update in that. And this is kind of good. I was going through the rules, the SSI rules, and some of the new rules state that we don't count some of your earnings used for work expenses. So this is something new that the Social Security Office has come out with. I'm going to read verbatim from this page. This is new. There is a plan. A plan can help. It says, you may be able to keep more of your SSI if you develop a special plan to support yourself. We call this a plan to achieve self-support, PASS. This plan lets you set aside money for a certain amount of time for a work goal, a business, go to school, or get training for a job. We don't count what you set aside when we figure your SSI. This can help you keep you on SSI or help you get more SSI. A PASS may also help someone you know qualify for SSI. So this is something fairly new. Now, I believe they want, Social Security wants you to set up a separate bank account for the money you're saving for these things, like starting a business, going to school, or training for a job, to go into there to qualify for the PASS. Now, unfortunately, it says not everybody qualifies. I believe there's like a 5 to 6 week waiting period. It's another layer of bureaucracy. So it's not a sure thing, but it's a start in the right direction. It's called PASS, P-A-S-S. can look that up. That's something fairly new from Social Security, because that is a huge problem. People with disabilities finally get a job, they lose their SSI. It's catch-22. Get a job, lose SSI. So maybe this will alleviate it. We don't know. It's new. We don't know who qualifies. You're just going to have to contact your Social Security office to speak to someone about the work incentives. But that's another problem. The people who work in these state and federal agencies, a lot of times, most of the time, are very unaware of all these plans. Okay, so for example, I want to read a letter from someone who has been desperate for help for many, many months, trying to get help for one of their adult children to gain employment. They were sent to what used to be called DARS, D-A-R-S, and that is a government program. That was very unsuccessful. That didn't work. They were sent to another program. They were basically shuffled around to all these programs. Okay, so this is happening in Texas. Okay, so we're going federal. Social Security is obviously federal. And now we're talking about Texas. So Texas has their own Health and Human Services Commission. Okay, and within that, there is something called the Texas Workforce Solutions. Okay, so they are supposed to be helping people with disabilities gain employment. I think they are supposed to help with a lot of things, but they also help if someone with disabilities feels like they've been discriminated against, they also help with that. But they're supposed to help you gain employment, and they refer you to other agencies that will help with things like voc rehab or mentorship. Things like that. So, okay, there was a response from the Health and Human Services Commission when this caretaker asked for help for someone with disabilities, and they had been getting the runaround for about 9 months. Okay, so there is an email that people can email in Texas to ask for help. It says se.questions@hhsc.state.tx.us. Okay. Questions about employment for people with disabilities can be emailed to se.questions@hhsc.state.tx.us. Okay, so this caretaker emailed the question, explained the situation, getting the runaround, we are not getting a solution at the Texas Workforce Solutions. Can you help us? So they get this letter back and it says, "Dear so-and-so, I regret to hear you are having difficulty with Texas Workforce Solutions. I checked with a colleague at TWS and she recommended that you call the Client Assistant Program, CAP, at Disability Rights Texas, whose job it is to mediate disputes between VR and customers. The statewide toll-free number is 1-800-252-9108. Best of luck with getting your issues resolved." And this came from somebody in the Special Projects Unit, IDD, Behavioral Health Services. Okay, so I thought, well, that's interesting. Why would one state agency that's set up to help people with disabilities be joined right alongside another state agency that's set up to help fix what this agency can't do? Like it's almost like the Texas HHSC, Health and Human Service Committee, said, my gosh, we know this isn't going to work. Let's make a whole nother organization to kind of help fix what's going on here, instead of fixing the actual problem, which is what the Texas Workforce Solutions doesn't do. So I started kind of looking at what they actually do. And then I realized that they rely heavily on welfare. It's almost if they don't want you to go to work. They're shuffling papers and shuffling people. I read that there's, right off the site, I read that there's TANF, that they provide subsidized childcare while you're trying to find work. I read that there's mentorship. I read that there's referral to other community agencies. I didn't see any job results. It looked like another form of welfare. And you can actually go on the site and read what they offer. But then I thought, you know what? You don't ever read anywhere or hear from anybody who's ever gotten a job through Texas Workforce Solutions. So I'm going to be looking at that in my next video, because I feel like that's those taxpayer dollars that are going toward that, and then going toward another agency called CAP to fix what this agency isn't doing. I don't really think that that's a really good use of our taxpayer dollars. And it doesn't serve those who it alleges to help. And that is one of the classes of the people that it alleges to help are people with disabilities searching for jobs. They want jobs. And once again, that is a problem. They get a job, they lose their SSI. Their SSI comes back up if they cut the job hours. So what do they do? And I have actually talked to some people who said, why should I get a job? Why should I get a job? I barely make enough. I only work part-time. I barely make enough. I'm basically swapping out the same amount of money. I'm getting, $650 SSI, but I'm working part-time and getting basically the same thing, but I'm losing my SSI, so why should I go to work? It's just, it's a catch-22. I just think it needs to be fixed, but it just really surprised me that this person at the HHSC in the question department did not know how to answer this question, and literally had to ask a colleague at that organization who said, call CAPS, Disability Rights for Texas, the Client Assistant Program. I think I mentioned that in another video. Client Assistant Program. And the federal government declares in their ADA that there should be X amount of client assistant programs. So here is one of them. So I'm going to call that number this week and see if they know what their job is, and to see if they can help this person. And I kind of have a feeling it's just going to go right back to the other agency, and then at that agency will send us back to that, and it'll just be like this, you know. And once again, who's in the middle? Who does not get served? Who does this not help? Which is set up to help. Who does this not help? The person with the disability who wants to work. So that is my beef for today. And I'm going to call CAP this week and investigate that just a little bit more. But yeah, I would suggest going on the Texas Workforce Solutions site and actually read what they purport to supply. I am all for helping Texans, but you know, just shuffling people and papers around and accepting taxpayer dollars and not helping people with disabilities who want to work, that just doesn't do it for me. So anyway, I will see you next week. Thank you.